The day after my engagement party, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a hospital pregnancy report. Next to the ultrasound image, 2 names were clearly printed: patient, Lily Croft. Family signature, Ethan Vance. Lily Croft, the wife of my fiancé Ethan's brother, Elias, who had passed away just 6 months ago. My soon-to-be sister-in-law. I sat on the sofa, turning the paper over and over, making sure I read every word correctly. Then, I picked up my phone and dialed Ethan's number. It rang for a long time before he answered. The background was noisy, mixed with the sound of a woman's suppressed sobs. "Hello, Clara. I'm in the middle of something. I'll call you back later." Ethan's voice was clipped with impatience. "Are you at the hospital?" My voice was calm. He paused, seemingly surprised by my tone, but still answered, "Yeah, Lily, she wasn't feeling well, so I brought her in for a checkup." "I see. Pregnancy does require extra care," I said, holding the report to the receiver. The rustling of the paper traveled clearly through the line. The other end of the line fell dead silent. After a full 30 seconds, Ethan's voice returned. He cleared his throat, his tone shifting to one of patronizing reassurance. "Clara, listen to me. I was wrong not to tell you. But Lily, she's a widow who just found out she's pregnant. She's emotionally unstable. I can't agitate her right now." I said nothing, listening quietly. He seemed to take my silence as acceptance and continued laying out his plans. "Don't worry. We'll tell everyone it's my brother's posthumous child. I'll fulfill my duty as a husband on my brother's behalf and take care of them. This has nothing to do with us. You are still my one and only legitimate wife. We'll go get our marriage license tomorrow as planned." "Okay." His voice even carried a hint of matter-of-fact coaxing, as if he were calming a petulant child. "Ethan," I said, cutting him off, "do you know how your brother Elias' car accident happened?" He was taken aback again. "Wasn't it driver fatigue?" "Why are you asking about this?" "I had his dashcam footage recovered yesterday. There's something on it I think you'll find interesting." I clutched the ultrasound report and walked to the window, watching the traffic below. "Come to my place now. Let's talk face-to-face. Clara, don't be ridiculous. Lily needs me here," he snapped, his voice rising with the irritation of having his authority challenged. "Fine. If you want come, I'll go to you," I replied, my tone unchanged. "You're at the private hospital downtown, right? I can be there in 20 minutes. It'll be perfect. We can clear things up in front of Lily, and while we're at it, she can hear what her husband heard in his car right before he died." "You wouldn't dare." For the first time, a note of panic entered Ethan's voice. I didn't give him another chance to speak. I hung up, grabbing my car keys from the sofa and the thin pregnancy report. I walked out the door. When it comes to revenge, I've never been patient. I prefer to settle scores on the spot. When I arrived at the hospital, Ethan was at the end of the hallway in the VIP ward, pacing anxiously. The moment he saw me step out of the elevator, he strode towards me, his face a mask of suppressed fury. "Clara, what the hell do you think you're doing?" He grabbed my wrist, trying to drag me into an empty corner. "This is a hospital. Can you stop making a scene?" I ignored his grip, my gaze fixed over his shoulder at the slightly ajar door to the hospital room. Lily was propped up in bed, her face pale, looking in our direction with a pitiful and helpless expression. Her acting was as superb as ever. I shook off Ethan's hand. The movement wasn't forceful, but he let go as if had been burned. "I'm here to break off the engagement," I said, looking him straight in the eye, "and to return what's yours." With that, I held the pregnancy report out in front of him. Ethan's face turned ashen. He instinctively tried to cover it, but it was too late. I walked straight past him and into the room. "Lily," I said, standing before her bed with a polite smile. "Congratulations. You're going to be a mother." Lily flinched, her eyes instantly welling up. Tears streamed down her face like broken pearls. "Clara, please. Listen to me. It's not what you think. Ethan and I are innocent." "Oh, really?" I pulled out my phone, played an audio file, and turned the volume to maximum. A harsh argument filled the room. "Ethan, when are you breaking up with Clara? I can't hide this belly much longer." It was Lily's shrill voice. "What's the rush? As soon as I secure her family's investment and get control of the company, I'll dump her. It's a good thing that useless Elias died." Otherwise, this would have been a real mess. It was Ethan's cold, ruthless voice. In the background of the audio, you could hear the intermittent honking of cars and a violent crash. It was the recording of the last call Elias made to Ethan, minutes before his accident. In a panic, Ethan must have accidentally hit speakerphone and the record button. The blood drained from Ethan's face. He lunged for my phone, but I sidestepped him. On the bed, Lily was completely frozen, tears still clinging to her eyelashes, her expression a blank slate of shock. So I was just a tool to get an investment. And Elias' death was just clearing an obstacle for you too. I put my phone away, looking between them. That's a lot to take in. I pulled the enormous diamond engagement ring from my finger and tossed it onto Lily's bedside table. It landed with a sharp clink. Consider this a gift for the baby. After all, he nearly had to call me Aunt Clara. Ethan stared at me, his eyes bloodshot, as if he wanted to tear me apart. Clara, give me that recording. Why the hurry? I said, turning to leave. I have a much bigger gift prepared for you both. At the doorway, I paused and smiled back at them. I've already sent that recording anonymously to every board member of the Vance Corporation, as well as a few of your top media competitors. I even came up with a headline: The Vance Family Secret, a brother's widow, an illicit affair, and the shocking conspiracy behind it all. You should see yourselves on the front page tomorrow morning. Then, to their looks of utter horror, I turned and walked away from that filthy room, my heels clicking calmly on the floor. I didn't go home. Instead, I went to my favorite rooftop bar. Beyond the massive floor-to-ceiling windows lay the glittering city skyline. I ordered a glass of the strongest whiskey. On the rocks, the amber liquid swirled gently in my glass. My phone had been vibrating nonstop since I left the hospital. I didn't answer, just glanced at the caller ID from time to time. Ethan, his mother, his father, every member of the Vance family was taking their turn. I swiped open the screen and blocked their numbers one by one. Finally, the world was quiet. A moment later, an unknown number called. I answered casually, saying nothing. Clara, it's me. Answer Ethan's calls. What do you want? Is there something we can't sit down and discuss? Do you have to make such an ugly scene? Ethan's mother's sharp voice came through the receiver, laced with exasperated accusation. Oh, your son is cheating on me before we're even married, and he might be connected to his brother's death. And you think that's something we can discuss? I swirled the ice in my glass, my tone languid. What nonsense are you talking about? She shrieked. That recording is a fake. This is slander. We can sue you. Go ahead. I welcome it. I chuckled. As it happens, my legal team is very interested to know if the Vance Corporation's accounting books can withstand an audit. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the investment my father gave Ethan was tied to an agreement with a performance-based penalty clause. With a scandal like this causing project delays, according to the contract, Ethan will have to repay 3 times the damages. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end, followed by a dead silence. Furthermore, I added, taking a sip of whiskey, the cool liquid sliding down my throat. I didn't just send that recording to the media and the board. I also submitted a copy to the police as a concerned citizen. I'm sure they'll have a fresh perspective on Elias' driver fatigue. You venomous bitch. Ethan's mother finally dropped her facade, screaming hysterically into the phone. I hung up before she could finish and blocked the number. The music in the bar was soft. I leaned back on the sofa, watching the city lights, and finished my drink. Just as I set the glass down, my phone lit up again. This time, it was a text message from a number I didn't recognize. MS. Hemming. My name is Lucas Thorne. I was a friend of Elias Vance. I have some leads regarding his death that might interest you. Would you be open to meeting? I read the message and raised an eyebrow. It seemed tonight's entertainment was more varied than I'd expected. I texted back 2 words. The address. Seconds later, he sent the name of a tea house and a room number. I stood up, grabbed my bag, paid my bill, and left. Since the game had already begun, it might as well be more interesting with a few more players. Half an hour later, I arrived at a tea house called Serenity. Pushing open the door to the private room, I saw a man in a dark gray shirt sitting at the table, focused on preparing tea. He looked up at the sound, revealing a handsome, clean-cut face. His eyes were calm, carrying a scholarly air. MS. Hemming, please sit. He gestured to the seat across from him, his voice gentle. I sat down and got straight to the point. You were Elias' friend. Yes. We were college roommates and best friends. Lucas pushed a freshly brewed cup of tea toward me, its fragrance light and elegant. I always felt something was wrong after his accident. What was wrong? Elias never drove tired. He was extremely careful with his life. And the day before the crash, he called me. He was very down. Lucas looked at me, his gaze sharp. He said he thought had discovered Ethan and Lily's secret and was going to confirm it. I told him to calm down, but he didn't listen. The next day, he was gone. This confirmed my suspicions. Why didn't the police suspect anything? I asked. No evidence. Lucas said with a hint of helplessness. The scene was wiped clean. The dashcam was coincidentally damaged. Ethan and Lily put on a convincing show of grief, and the Vance family used their connections to close the case quickly as an accident. He paused, then continued. I've been investigating quietly, but made little progress. Until tonight, when friends of mine in the media and at Vance Corp forwarded me that recording. His expression grew more complex as he looked at me, a mix of admiration and understanding. MS. Hemming. You were more decisive than I imagined. I'm just claiming the justice I'm owed. I picked up the teacup but didn't drink. You didn't just ask me here to tell me this, did you? Of course not. Lucas smiled and took a file from his briefcase, sliding it across the table to me. I know Ethan's greatest weakness. I raised an eyebrow, signaling him to continue. The Vance Corporation has been trying to pivot into a new energy project. Ethan is the head of that project. It's his biggest leverage within the family. Lucas spoke slowly, but every word carried weight. The core technology patent for this project is held by an overseas company. As it happens, the CEO of that company is a former classmate of mine. I finally understood his plan. I opened the file. Inside was a detailed project proposal and background information on the relevant companies. To secure this deal, Ethan misappropriated a large sum of company funds and even leveraged some of his personal shares. If this project fails, he won't just lose his standing in the company, he'll be bankrupt. Lucas' eyes were cold. He destroyed Elias' life. I'm going to destroy everything he has. I closed the file and looked at him. What do you want me to do? Pull the rug out from under him, Lucas said, a cold smile on his lips. I've already spoken with my former classmate. He's willing to terminate the partnership with Vance Corp. But he needs a catalyst, a legitimate reason he can give his shareholders. And the media storm I've created is the perfect reason. I finished for him. Exactly. Lucas nodded. All the pieces are in place. We just need one final push. And it's most fitting for that push to come from you. Just then, my phone rang again. It was a number I had nearly forgotten. It was Ethan. He must have gotten a new number from somewhere. I looked at the screen, pressed answer, and put it on speaker. Clara. Ethan's voice was strained, as if forced through gritted teeth, filled with the madness of defeat. How far are you going to push me? You've ruined my reputation, made me a pariah in our entire circle, and now you're interfering with my company's project. It seemed Lucas' associate had moved quickly. The news had already reached him. I remained silent, tapping my fingers rhythmically on the table. Across from me, Lucas made a be my guest gesture and calmly refilled my teacup. I admit I was wrong. I was a bastard. I shouldn't have betrayed you. Ethan's tone softened as he began to play the sympathy card. But we were together for 5 years. Clara. 5 years. Did none of that mean anything to you? Can you show me a little mercy for old time's sake? I gambled everything on that project. Now the overseas company is pulling out. The board wants to oust me. I have nothing left. Please, just let me go. I'm begging you. His voice cracked, thick with desperation. Begging me. I finally spoke, a hint of amusement in my voice. Ethan, when you had your arm around Lily, plotting how to use me, did you ever imagine this day would come? He was speechless. You felt perfectly justified using me for your career, even thinking your brother's death was a fortunate event. Now, I'm destroying your career to get my own justice. Isn't that fair? My voice was still calm, but it was like a blade of ice, stabbing at his heart. Clara, don't push me. His pleading turned into a weak threat. You think I can't touch you? Don't forget, many of your family's businesses are tied to the Vance Corp. If you push me too far, well, both go down in flames. Is that so? I laughed softly. It seems you still don't understand the situation. In the 10 minutes you've been on this call, my father has already activated our contingency plan, completely severing all our related supply chains with Vance Corp and filing for asset preservation with the courts. As for the resulting losses, they will, of course, be borne entirely by the party in breach of contract, the Vance Corporation. A long, deathly silence followed on the other end. I could picture Ethan's face. It must have been quite a sight. By the way, I added slowly, as if just remembering something, as compensation for the emotional distress of your betrayal and the potential risks your embezzlement posed to my family's company, my lawyers are currently drafting a lawsuit demanding personal damages from you. A nine-figure sum. Nothing much. Just enough to leave you completely bankrupt. Ethan's voice trembled, unable to form a complete sentence. Don't worry. The game is just getting started. I lifted the teacup, taking a real sip this time. The warm liquid was soothing. Be at my house tomorrow morning at 9. Bring a complete list of all your assets and a detailed written confession about your sordid affair with Lily. And remember, I want everything. You can forget it. He roared. You don't have to come. My voice turned cold. But I promise you, the full, unedited recording, along with the hotel records of you and Lily that started before Elias even died, will land on a detective's desk. At that point, it won't be about bankruptcy anymore. It'll be about suspicion of murder. The choice is yours. With that, I hung up the phone again. The room was quiet. Lucas watched me, his eyes filled with undisguised admiration. You're even more ruthless than I thought. I put down my teacup and stood up. When you're dealing with scum, you don't show mercy. The next morning at exactly 9 a.m., my doorbell rang. I looked at the video intercom. Ethan stood there alone. Overnight, he seemed to have aged 10 years. His eyes were sunken, his face unshaven, and his suit was wrinkled. None of his former confidence remained. I opened the door but didn't invite him in, simply leaning against the frame with my arms crossed. Where is it? With bloodshot eyes, Ethan glared at me as if he wanted to flay me alive. He pulled a thick stack of documents from his briefcase and slammed it onto the shoe cabinet next to me, the motion filled with resentful rage. It's all here. My property, stocks, funds, bank accounts. Are you satisfied now, Clara? I took the documents and began flipping through them. He had been thorough, even including some of his off-the-books income. It was clear that the fear of prison outweighed the pain of bankruptcy. And the written statement about you and Lily? I asked without looking up. His Adam's apple bobbed. He squeezed the words out through his teeth. It's in there too. I flipped to the end and found several pages detailing how his relationship with Lily had evolved from in-laws to lovers, and how they had plotted to kick me out as soon as they secured my investment. It was written with great emotion and regret, like a sinner's confession. Good. I closed the file. To ensure you haven't missed anything, my legal and accounting teams will audit all of your assets. If they find anything hidden, there's nothing. I swear, there's nothing left. He practically shouted, his voice laced with despair. Everything I have is in here. Please, just let me go. For the sake of what we used to have. He suddenly stepped forward to grab my hand, but I recoiled in disgust. His hand froze in midair, and the color drained from his face. What we used to have, I said, as if I'd heard the world's greatest joke. Ethan, you don't get to talk about that. Just then, a soft female voice came from behind me. Clara, what are you two talking about? Lily had somehow appeared in my living room. She was wearing a white maternity dress, her belly slightly rounded. Her makeup was perfect, making her look fragile and innocent. How did she get in? I was sure I had locked the door. My eyes swept over her and landed on the set of keys in her hand, the spare set Ethan had left with me. When Ethan saw Lily, his expression twisted into a mixture of terror and fury. What are you doing here? Who told you to come? Lily ignored him and walked straight up to me, a victorious smile on her face. She deliberately pushed out her stomach, stroking it proudly. Clara, Ethan has already transferred all his assets to my name, she announced, her chin held high. Even if you sue him now, he doesn't have a penny. He's a pauper. And I'm the final winner. Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief. He looked from Lily to me, his lips trembling, unable to speak. I watched this farce unfold and, Instead of getting angry, I laughed. Oh, really? I tossed the documents in my hand onto the floor and took out my phone to make a call. Officer Daniels. Hello. This is Clara Hemming. Regarding the traffic accident of Mr. Elias Vance. I have 2 key witnesses here with me. They just confessed to orchestrating a series of events to defraud me of a significant investment so they could be together. Yes. I'm at my home right now, and they're both here. The address is okay. I'll wait for you. I hung up and looked at the instantly pale faces of Lily and Ethan. Congratulations. You're about to become the star couple in a police file. I think prison is the most fitting home for winners like you. The sound of police sirens grew closer, then stopped downstairs. The color drained from Lily's face. She grabbed Ethan's arm, her body trembling like a leaf in the wind. Ethan, what do we do? I don't want to go to jail. I'm carrying your child. Ethan violently shoved her away, his eyes red with a mixture of utter madness and venomous hatred for me. Clara, you vicious bitch. I'll kill you. He lunged at me like a feral animal. I didn't move. My expression didn't even flicker. A split second before his hands could touch me, a dark figure flashed out from my side, landing a swift, hard kick to Ethan's stomach. Ethan grunted, flying backward and slamming against the wall before sliding to the floor in a crumpled, groaning heap. Lucas Thorne lowered his foot, standing protectively in front of me. He looked down at Ethan on the floor, his eyes as cold as ice. Touch her, and you won't live to see tomorrow. I looked at his back, surprised. What was he doing here? As if he had eyes in the back of his head. Lucas spoke in a low voice without turning around. I didn't trust you to meet him alone. Urgent knocking sounded at the door, followed by an authoritative voice. Police. Open up. Lucas went and opened the door. Several uniformed officers quickly entered and secured the scene. When they saw the crumpled Ethan on the floor and the deathly pale Lily, they understood immediately. Are these the two? The lead officer asked. Looking at me, I nodded. They confessed to conspiring to defraud me of my assets. Furthermore, their relationship is directly linked to the suspicious death of Elias Vance. The moment Lily heard the word police, her legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor, wailing. It wasn't me. It had nothing to do with me. He made me do it. He seduced me. She pointed a trembling finger at Ethan, shifting all the blame. Ethan struggled to lift his head and stared at Lily, his eyes filled with disbelief and profound disappointment. He probably never imagined that the woman he had risked everything to protect would be the first to betray him. He suddenly burst into crazed laughter, a sound full of despair and self-mockery. Ha ha, karma. This is all karma. You win. Clara, you win. The police handcuffed them both. Lily's sobbing and Ethan's laughter mingled, echoing unnervingly in the empty apartment. As they were being let out, Ethan stopped beside me. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, a chaotic mix of regret, affection, and utter despair. Clara, if I hadn't done those things, would we be getting our license today? I looked at him, my face impassive. There are no ifs in this world. I stepped aside to let them pass. The police escorted him past me without a second glance. As another officer helped Lily to her feet, she glared at me with pure hatred. Clara Hemming, you'll rot in hell. I'll haunt you from my grave. I didn't even bother to look at her. The security door slammed shut with a heavy thud. And finally, the world was quiet. I let out a long breath, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. It's over, Lucas' voice said beside me. He handed me a glass of warm water. It's all over now. I took the glass but didn't drink. Instead, looking at him. How did you get a key to my apartment? At my question, Lucas' expression flickered with a brief, unnatural stiffness. He avoided my gaze, taking a set of keys from his pocket and placing them on the coffee table. It was my spare set, the one Ethan used to have. I went to see Ethan this morning. I persuaded him to return everything that belonged to you, Lucas explained nonchalantly, including this. I looked at him, knowing it couldn't have been as simple as he made it sound. The way he stressed the word persuaded told me everything. A man like Ethan, who wouldn't admit defeat until the bitter end, would never give in so easily. What did you do to him? I asked. Nothing much. Lucas adjusted his cuffs, feigning indifference. I just had a chat with him about some things from Elias' past and showed him a few photos. He's a smart man. He knew what choice to make. The more casually he spoke, the more I was certain that those photos and things were anything but simple. This man, Lucas, appeared gentle and refined, but his methods were clearly far more ruthless than Ethan's. But that was no longer my concern. "Thank you," I said. And I meant it. For everything. For Elias. And for me. "You don't have to thank me." Lucas finally looked up, his gaze intense. I was helping Elias, but I was also helping myself. I'm glad to see them get what they deserve. His stare was so focused it made me a little uncomfortable. I stood up and walked to the window. The police cars below were gone. The neighborhood had returned to its usual tranquility, as if the morning's drama had never happened. "What will happen to them?" I asked softly. "Commercial fraud. Embezzlement. The amount is huge. It's enough to keep them in prison for a very long time," Lucas said, joining me by the window. "As for Elias' case, the police are reopening the investigation. While there isn't enough direct evidence for a murder charge, that recording is enough to suggest indirect involvement or manslaughter. Even if they aren't convicted of that, they'll be inside for the better part of their lives. A lifetime. I once thought I would spend a lifetime with Ethan. How absurd that seemed now. And you?" I turned to look at him. "What are your plans now?" "Me?" Lucas seemed surprised for a second, then smiled. With the dust settled, "I suppose I should get back to my own life." He hesitated for a moment before asking, "What about you? What are your plans?" "I'm going to travel," I answered without a second thought. "Leave this city. Go somewhere nobody knows me. And just rest for a while. This place held too many bad memories." I needed a clean break. A flicker of disappointment crossed Lucas' eyes, but it was quickly masked by a smile. "That sounds nice. Any idea where you'll go?" "Not yet. I'd recommend Dolly. My old classmate has a house with a courtyard there. The scenery is beautiful. It's quiet, perfect for clearing your head." He took out his phone and showed me a photo. It was an elegant courtyard house, filled with flowers and plants. Sunlight streamed down from the eaves, warm and serene. It was truly beautiful. "I can help you get in touch," he added. My phone screen lit up with a text from an unknown number. Ethan's mother again. It was a single sentence. "Clara, I'm begging you. Save Ethan. I'll give you anything you want." I stared at the message, then deleted it without a change in expression. I looked up at Lucas and smiled. "Okay, I do appreciate that." A month later, I was in Dolly. Lucas' friend's courtyard house was even more beautiful than the photos. My days were simple. I painted in the courtyard in the mornings, wandered through the old town or found a quiet cafe in the afternoons, and counted stars from the rocking chair in the evenings. The pace of life here was slow enough to let me forget all the unpleasantness of the past. I changed my phone number, cutting ties with everyone from my old life. Besides my parents, only Lucas knew my new number. He would text me occasionally to ask if I was settling in or to share something interesting from his day. He was always respectful of my space, never intrusive. One afternoon, as I was adding the final touches to an oil painting, my phone rang. It was Lucas. "Am I interrupting your painting?" His voice was cheerful. "Almost done," I said, putting down my brush and sitting at the stone table under the grapevines. "What's up? You sound happy." "Yes. The verdict for Ethan and Lily's case came out today." My hand paused. "And Ethan was found guilty of commercial fraud, embezzlement, and perjury, among other charges. Sentenced to 20 years in prison," Lucas said calmly, as if stating a simple fact. "Lily, as an accomplice, got 8 years. Considering she was pregnant." She broke down in court. "The baby I heard she lost it." I was silent. The outcome was expected, yet somehow it felt heavier than I had imagined. "What's wrong?" Lucas asked, sensing my silence. "Nothing." I exhaled. "It just feels like it was all a dream, then treated as a nightmare. And now, you've woken up," Lucas said, his voice gentle. "Clara, you should be looking forward." "I know." I smiled faintly. I was just thinking, if I hadn't found that pregnancy report, or if I had chosen to swallow my pride and ignore it, what would my life be like now? "There are no ifs," he interjected, his tone firm. "You're not that kind of person. You're decisive, clear-headed, and you would never let yourself be wronged. That's one of the things I admire about you." The line went quiet. I could hear his slightly quickened breath. "So Clara," he said, clearing his throat, a hint of nervousness in his voice. I have a business trip to Yunnan next week, for a project in Kunming. I was wondering could I come visit you? I held the phone, looking at the vibrant bougainvillea in the courtyard. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, warming my hand. I should have said no. I had decided to start a new life, free from any entanglements of the past. But for some reason, the words that came out were, "Okay, let me know when you're coming, and I'll pick you up from the airport." After hanging up, I sat there for a moment, slightly stunned by my own response. Just then, a commotion erupted from outside the courtyard gate. A familiar, detestable voice pierced the tranquility, full of desperate pleading. "Clara, I know you're in there. Open the door. Let me see you. Just for a minute." It was Ethan's mother. How on earth did she find me here? I stood in the courtyard, motionless and silent. Her cries and the pounding on the gate shattered the peace. I could hear the faint murmurs of neighbors, their curiosity piqued. "Clara, I know we were wrong. The Vance family wronged you. But please, have mercy on Ethan. He's so young. He can't spend 20 years in prison. I'll give you all the money our family has left. I'll give you our family home. Just please, write a letter of forgiveness so he can get a reduced sentence. I'm begging you." Her voice was hoarse and desperate, a stark contrast to the imperious woman who had once looked down on me. I walked to the gate but didn't open it. I spoke through the heavy wooden door, my voice cold. "Your son destroyed his own life. It has nothing to do with me. Your job now isn't to beg me, but to teach him how to be a better person in prison." The crying outside stopped for a beat, then became even more shrill. "Clara, how can you be so heartless? Do you even have a heart? How did our family ever wrong you for you to be so vindictive? How did you wrong me?" I scoffed. "Let me ask you. You knew about Ethan and Lily's disgusting affair all along, but you helped them hide it from me while you waited for my family's investment to come through. Is that not wronging me? You knew your younger son's death was suspicious, but for the sake of your family's reputation and your other son's future, you chose to sweep it under the rug. Is that not wronging the dead Elias?" Silence from the other side. I didn't give her a chance to respond. "You're begging me because you think I'm soft-hearted, but you forget. My compassion ran out when your entire family treated me like a fool. Your son's 20 years are what he deserves. Leave. If you continue to harass me, I will call the police." After that, I ignored whatever happened outside and walked back to my easel. The noise gradually faded and then disappeared completely. The world was quiet again. I picked up my brush and looked at the canvas. It depicted a corner of this courtyard, bathed in perfect sunlight, with flowers in full bloom. In the bottom right corner, I added a single, bright sunflower. A week later, I met Lucas at the airport. He was pulling a suitcase, dressed in a simple white shirt and casual trousers. He looked a little tired from travel, but his eyes were bright. The moment he saw me, he broke into a smile like sunshine on a winter's day. "I'm here," he said. "Welcome." I took his suitcase. "Let's go. I'll show you where I'm staying and you can try my cooking." We walked out of the airport side by side, the brilliant Dolly sun shining down on us. I didn't know what the future held for Lucas and me, and I didn't want to think that far ahead. All I knew was that after leaving Ethan, my life hadn't turned gray. On the contrary, I had found a freedom and peace I had never known before. I had my passion, new scenery, and new possibilities. As for Ethan and his family, they were now nothing more than a closed, insignificant chapter in the book of my life. My world was open and vast, and the future was full of promise, and none of it had anything to do with him anymore.